Welcome back, day 5. We are journaling about our favorite recipe and we are using index cards or record cards as journaling cards and talking about pockets in journaling because journaling cards and pockets go hand in hand. I've pulled some papers from Prickly Pear's pack. Really, what I liked about the pack, the enamel elements, serviette, the chickens, some of the lace doilies, and then what I copied straight out of my recipe book is I'm not going to say my favorite recipe, it's my most popular recipe. It's called the Jan Alice pudding, but it's a type of malva, and you can see I've messed on it, I've marked on it, it's gotten wet, the ink has run. So if you have an old recipe book from a granny or an aunt or your mom, these give very authentic pages and authentic backgrounds very quickly because you've actually used them. You don't need to fake the color or anything. This is how it looks. And it's crusty and messy, the actual book, because recipe books get used. So that's a good start if you are journaling about your recipe today. The next item that's very good in recipe journaling is actual food products. This is the apricot jam label because the recipe has apricot jam in. It's a bit bright and a bit shiny, but I'll work with it. Sugar bags are good, flour bags, because they're all paper. And in recipes, they often feature. And then the last thing that is second last thing that's a very good source of pictures for recipe journaling, magazines. Most magazines have recipes. The little canned fruit jars are good. Again, the enamel, all of these pictures, very good. They really speak of farmhouse and eating and the joy of eating. And in this time in December, we do celebrate, we are festive, we do meet with friends, well, normally. So cooking does form a part of it. A good source of food images is also serviettes. These two are a bit bright for the theme perhaps, but keep a lookout. You'll find serviettes are very, very versatile, and I'll show you how to use some of them on the journaling cards. So here we go, journaling cards or record cards, index cards. We all know them. They come in a variety of sizes and colors and shapes. They are pretty boring and they are pretty bland on their own, but what's very good about them is they are easily accessible, they are cheap, they are very easy to change to your needs, and they're very often secondhand. People get rid of them. I'm grouping with these record cards. These are Rolodex cards. You'll see that is quite a trendy thing for junk journals. Not always accessible. The little tab cards that go between the record index cards. Old calendar inserts. They're quite nice to use. This again is a type of that was in the library, Dewey Decimal with a long stick at the bottom, so actually it went like that. So that's a type of index card. And then I think we all have somewhere a little box of recipes from a granny or aunt or something with little type or handwritten notes. This is a gestoofde beestong. I will definitely not be making it, but it adds a nice base. So what we're going to use today is we're going to alter our index cards. Altering is if you take just about anything in junk journaling and you change it, you decorate it, you upcycle it to work in your junk journal. So this will just be a base. I'm paging through my journal as I do, just looking for a start where to put my page. I'm going to do the ledger pages. These got stuck in the rain, so they're a bit smudgy, but it's an effect that you can create very easily with an ink pen and just wetting it and smudging it. So the colors are quite dull, which I like. It doesn't read as the thing that it is, but it gives a nice background, and I specifically like the turquoise on this page, so I'm going to work with that. I'm going to work on a double page today, purely because I don't think I've shown a double page I may have. It's a bit daunting to work on a double page because it's a lot, and you need to have your left and your right side talk to each other. And I see it actually says Kersdag, I think, there. I know, January, I don't know. So you need to let your left and your right hand talk to each other, so that's another sort of bonus skill we can talk about. When altering journaling cards or index cards, they are quite difficult to colour, because when you colour them, this one I just dipped in some very weak coffee water. When you colour them, the lines run. Can you see that? Which in itself is not a problem. It gets fadey, so it needs to be dipped and out. You can't soak them. So that's one option. Another easy option, just to give them a bit of character and to make them look like they've been used in the kitchen. Coffee ring, coffee splats, that works quite well. And then let's do some collaging. It's one of my very, very, very favorite things. Just sticking stuff down, layering them up, no rules. So let's have a go. So today is a lot of playing. I'm fussy cutting some of the enamel, which I think will go well with the kitchen and recipe. When fussy cutting, this isn't a particularly difficult one. You keep your scissor quite still, and you are moving your paper, and that helps a lot. When your fussy cutting has an element that clearly that inside can be cut out, you can do it if you're quite handy with a little scalpel. If you don't like doing that, or you're too scared, don't worry, it's okay to just start like that. I'm going to do it because I think it's going to add a little bit of an extra touch. When I alter cards like this, it seems like a lot of effort, but I just look through my elements. This can be a little border that it can sit on. I like having the original item still show. I mean, it is a recipe card, even though it's not a recipe that I necessarily want to follow. So those are all things to consider. I like tearing paper. We'll get into tearing and perfections in journals in one of the later prompts. So I'm just starting to layer items and see how they look. So I don't stick down until I'm happy. And you don't need to go crazy. It's a bit of detail. When you're doing these little layered collages on journaling cards, index cards, it's also a good place to repeat elements. So things that you have used in your past pages that you now have an offcut of, because that encourages movement through the journal. These cards and the embellishments on them, or the layers on them, I like to keep quite flat so that you can still write at the back of them, especially here where we are definitely capturing something. Also, what you could do is, this is quite a nice little add to a gift. So with the Christmas card, or as the Christmas card, or attached to the Christmas card, send a recipe, your favorite recipe, on a nice little card that you've made. There we go, that's quite simple. The Liggaam and Siel, Body and Soul is a word from a magazine. I like adding words. So I'm going to glue all of that down. Once you've glued it, you need to be quite careful with your gluing so that you don't end up with a little hook, not a hook, a corner that hooks. So you can seal your cards with Podge or a gel medium. Those are easily available products, not too expensive, and you just paint it over, and then you've given your card a varnish, a paper varnish. Once you've laid out your collage, sometimes I forget, like I've taken it off now to glue, but I forget. So you can take a picture of your cell phone, which you're not supposed to have when you're doing mindful journaling, but at least you can remember what you're doing. You will also, if you watch other videos, sometimes see people distressing their edges. So they will take an ink and rub ink all over the edges. You can do that if you've got ink. If you don't have ink, it's also okay. A pen outline will also do if you wanted to finish it off. So it's a little finger dauber. I've dipped it in the ink. Do you see the white paper edges disappearing? Some people never distress or chalk or ink their edges. Some people do it religiously. So again, if you have it at your disposal, do it. If you don't, it's also okay. As discussed, when I lay an element, whether it's on a page or whether it's micro, like on a card, I like overlapping them. So I wouldn't put that piece there and the enamel way far away. I'll let the one touch the other one. For me, that's visual grouping and it's more appealing to the eye. I've also inked the edge of the word. This brand, you can read for yourself, is generally accepted as the best inker and the best distresser and the best everythinger. It's incredibly pricey. These little guys are about somewhere between 25 and 30 rand. And they work fine, and you don't even need a special tool because you can just open it and drag it through. So I'm not endorsing brands, I'm not paying for brands. I just want to make journaling quite accessible. There you go. So that's done. It's not a lot that you need to change something. That's the podge that I was talking about, and you can seal it with that. What works quite well at this point is a bit of tissue paper just to soften the edges almost. This one has been collaged and sealed, and you can see it goes quite flat. That is the gel medium. It's also a $1 product. If you don't want to alter your card with collage or layering or embellishment, and you just want to do something like this, perhaps ink the edges like we discussed. A nice way to journal is to put the recipe on one side and the story of the recipe on the other side, or the story of the recipe and the photo of the person on the other side, so that the recipe means something. Recipe journals as a themed journal are incredibly popular, and they create very nice keepsakes. So that's also a nice project to attempt. And then I'm going to do one of the big cards with the serviette, just so that you can see what they look like. You can see I've used part of the serviette. I've separated the layers, so this is the top thinnest layer. And then what I'm doing is the red I think is too much. I'm trying to get rid of the red. Very handy. This is an old hairspray bottle or whatever filled with water. And I just give it a light squirt to sort of weaken it. And then I pull off the bits I don't want, because that means you get a far less clean edge. So when you put it on the card, it blends in better. I always apply my medium even glue with a brush, and I'm applying at the bottom. You'll see I'm working on a big Teflon craft sheet, and I'm covering, but it's not a thick layer. I'm not soaking the card, but I am making sure that all the corners, I'm actually going off the card so that I get all the bits and pieces. And then serviettes are incredibly fragile. Once they stick, they stick. So So I'm laying it over, and then I've tore it there, so it's adding some bits. And then the trick, and I learned this trick from Alma from Namibia. This is a dry baby wipe. Even the sanitizing wipes that you're getting every time you enter a Pick and Pay or whatever, keep them. For some reason they don't stick on the thing. And a brayer, if you have it, a little roller. And then I roll over this. And that spreads the medium quite nicely. So now you can feel it's already wet at the top. So you have to have far less medium, and then you get a much flatter decoupage. And I find that works very well for me, and it looks much neater, because sometimes when you do the serviettes you do end up with, so now when you pull it off, just be careful that you don't tear the thing, because obviously, so you wait until that's dry. Don't mess with it, because we all want to. You can seal it again, and then I'll show you when it's neat what we do there if you want to do something. This was a table covering that I saw at a restaurant the other day, and I took it, asked him if I could take it. So that's the thing with junk journaling. Look around you. There's actually a lot of good design, a lot of, and I mean, it's a free image. So I'm going to lay them over. So this is just another form of altering. Journaling cards and pockets go hand in hand. In its most basic form, a pocket is a type of envelope. So just old envelope. I'm just using a scissor, it's not going to be straight, but to give you the idea. And there's your pocket. So flap gets stuck down. This is very basic. And in the pocket goes your journaling card. And the pocket goes on the page, and you can get your journaling cards out. And it's meant to be that you see part of your journaling card from the pocket. Pockets can be layered, so you can have a pocket on a pocket. So if you would put, this is a piece of recipe, if you would put that, glue that down there, you will have another pocket. So pockets can be very, very elaborate. Pockets can have folds. Pockets can have hidden journaling, like we showed in the first video. But a pocket and journaling card combo is really a staple of junk journaling and journaling. And then we get a sister to a pocket, or a brother or a cousin to a pocket, which is a tuck spot. Do you see it's much smaller, and it just catches the item that you're putting in. So much more of the item is visible with a tuck spot. You're just tucking it in. And it can be something as basic as a little photo or a card or something that's not quite glued down, but it'll catch something. So it's not holding it fast like a pocket does, but it's still a space to put something. So the trifecta, journaling card, pocket, tuck spot, also very popular combination. Pockets generally also get embellished if you are using something like a junk envelope as a base. Embellishments on pockets can be quite elaborate, and they can have some bulk, because where you are writing you get to take out. So you can go quite over the top with flowers, some more three-dimensional items, and really get a nice bit of the theme captured on the pocket and then the journaling card goes in. When you're laying items on a page and you're starting with your page, I very, very often start in the bottom right-hand corner, and it's such a habit, but it's a bit of a mind shift to say I'm starting top left or I'm starting in the middle or something. But that also makes your journals interesting, that as you page, it's not there and there and there, that it's somewhere else. So force yourself to say, where am I putting this? Where did I put this in relation to the previous page? Make a change. Items that work very well on food pages also, because they're kitchen related, are doilies that you can dye. So I've got 3 circles, which I like. This circle will make a good tuck spot. So you just don't glue the whole thing. You just glue it enough to catch something. These are not my relatives. They are, let's call them found relatives. It's Mrs. Holmes, Edith Holmes, and Edith Fitchett at Fishhook in 1946. It just seems like they probably could have been aunts who cooked. So I like it. I'm jumping around here, but thinking about the first lesson, we were talking about themes and what you can add and what you can't add. Do you see this as food? So technically it belongs on a food and a recipe page, but it's just too fresh and modern for the farmhouse rustic. So when you are doing themed pages, think about, yes, in principle, but in practice, no. When you're doing pockets, obviously just make sure that your card actually fits in the pocket. It doesn't need to fit. This one's disappearing, so there's no way, unless you put a little pull thing, that you really know what you put in there. So this pocket can actually be a bit smaller, but then we're starting to have scale issues again. I actually like the little handle, if that would stick out, because it looks like you can pull it out. So it's also visual things. So, and then I've got this big one which I still want to use, but that can be, so staggered pockets also. Now I didn't like that it's upside down, so that would probably be better. That's fine. So I'll do another pocket here, so this one is over this one. So when you embellish this pocket, just think about. So it's really just seeing how things look on the page, and this is a particularly big page. I'm going to do, this is just a piece of paper from the pack, so I'm only going to glue this left, right and bottom, and I'm going to do a whole page pocket. So from there, well, take the whole into account where your rings must be, to there, and I'm going to do it so that it looks like this pocket is in this pocket, even though it's not. If you want to make a pocket slightly bigger, that you can put more than one thing in, you just give it a flap. I always cut these things the wrong way. That way. And a flap at the bottom, and then you glue on the flaps, because then your pocket has a bit of give, because it's got that little flap that gives it expansion room. So that's also a way to make. And then when you've got a very big pocket like this is 18 centimeters, it lends itself to smaller pockets on the front. So that's when you start getting some interesting layers and textures, because now it can be pocket, tuck spot. Some people do side pockets. So lots of dimensions that you can layer your things. You will often see that a pocket has a notch, so that once the item is in there, that's quite easy to get out. It's also just visual. You can do it with a punch, but if you don't have a punch, you can also etc. You can also just draw it, cut a circle like that, fold your pocket and give it a notch. Also play around with where you put tuck spots. A tuck spot can also be a top corner, and then that just sits there. This is again the OT box, so you see there's a lot of usable material. Actually, working on my page, I'm adding some vintage lace offcut just over that, and then the circle, even if it overhangs, and then that circle echoes that circle, but now this has become a bit pinker, but there's pink there, and there's pink on the page, there's pink there, and then this little circle can tuck in there. So then we're moving across the page with colors, with themes, with shapes. When I embellish pockets and cards and things on a page, I also like going off the shape of the things, so the little chickens overlapping. And then I'm going to do another one of my, I love these ruffles, and this is it's not a cotton, so it frays quite a bit. I'm going to make an oversized little ruffle, whoopsie, just with a glue gun. So there is my page on my favorite recipe, which is the Malva. I did a bit of journaling. A friend had sent a message out of New York 2 days ago saying a picture of him having Malva in a very fancy restaurant, and said it made him think of me. So that was a nice little memory to capture. And then layered pockets and tuck spots, and I'll do some meal planning. So this was the final one. It's blank at the back, that tucks in. That can take a lot. And then I added a little metal spoon charmy thing, and then that also is the little card that we had altered. So hopefully you'll have lots of fun. I find it incredibly calming to do layered collages like that on index cards. They're very versatile, so keep them in your stash. If you see them lying around, even if they have writing on, you can use them. It gives a nice background. This is quite a busy page, quite a layered page. This would have been fine for a recipe and journaling too. So this was purely just to show some techniques. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the comments. And thanks for watching. Thanks for the comments. And remember to show your pages. Tomorrow we are talking about childhood memories, and we will be using